That was pronounced Sidipides.
Okay, that's what I thought. It took me a while to get there, but that's eventually what I settled on. I was like, that's probably how it's pronounced.
It's based off of Pheidippides, the runner back in like Greece and Athens and shit. So you take that, you take the phi out, replace it with psi because of Kappa Kappa Psi, my fraternity, and that's actually my fraternity nickname. So, yeah.
What's a fraternity?
Do you guys not have those up there in Canada?
So Christopher's being tongue-in-cheek. He knows what it is, but we don't have them up here. No.
I have a vague idea of what they are from watching movies and TV.
Gotcha.
But
80s
no,
movies.
we don't. But
you show up, you have to wear tighty whities, you get hazed.
Eventually, by the end of the night, you'll end up fucking a goat, you know?
Stealing a goat, Christopher. Stealing. I know you get those confused.
But no, I'm kind of a Greek life junkie. I did that a lot in my 9 years of college, or university, rather. So.
Wow, how many times did you fail?
We want information. Information. Information.
Who are you?
The new number 2.
Who is number 1?
You are number 6.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
ReBoot.
Yeah, real alphanumeric.
That's ReBoot. It lets you download useful tools, skills, and weapons from the game into your own code.
They call me Wise One. The one I understand. The wise I'm not so sure about.
Alphanumeric. Yeah, cool.
Greetings and salivations, ex-humans, to another episode of Alphanumeric, a ReBoot podcast brought to you by the one and only Lasercomb Productions. Today, I am joined by the one and only Christopher Siege.
Suspiriations, listeners.
Oh, geez. That might not even be a word, but I would believe whatever definition Christopher gave me. I am another one of your hosts, NeoCal, and today we have a special guest host, Lady Glitch.
Hello, friends. How we doing?
How are we doing? Well, I am doing well. Christopher is free from his workplace for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But Sniddler.
I spend my time singing "I Want to Break Free" long enough, and eventually it happens. So
it just happens. Sniddler has some personal, really bad string of luck, and I wish him the best. It's not health related, so anybody listening, it's just it's automotive plus pet related. It's
an unfortunate sequence of events.
That is apt. Yes. But
lemony snickets all up in this motherfucker.
It's little lemony
Yes.
snickets. Tastes a little lemony snickets. But we're talking about a very special episode today. It is called Number 7, the 7th episode of Season 3. And
of
it came
the
out
1960s British TV series, The Prisoner.
Funny that you should mention that, Christopher.
Just had to get that in there.
And this came out October 1st, 1997. And apparently, March 26th, 1998 in the UK.
Oh, we got it first.
By a long time.
That's that hasn't really been the trend thus far.
What happened in
season,
the UK? They went 6
3.
months without a new episode of ReBoot.
Maybe they went on. Maybe they were dealing with it with a virus or a GameCube of their own.
True.
Perhaps.
I like that idea.
So
And by virus, I just realized I'm like, in the state of the world right now. That's not what I was alluding to.
Christopher, silence.
I
Drop the
mean virus in the of the megabyte and or hexadecimal variety.
We're talking about reboot here. It has nothing.
It has nothing to do with Damon, a super virus.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. The daemons are coming. Let loose the dogs of war and something about viruses.
Yes.
Man. So what I would like to do is say welcome to the show, Lady Glitch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We initially discovered you on Twitter. You discovered us and found out that you're a ReBoot fan.
Actually, she reached out to me on Instagram a while back.
It was Instagram first.
Yes,
Right.
I actually went back through my posts and saw our first interaction, Christopher, and that was back in January.
Yeah,
when I posted my box set.
Yeah, and you were telling me about
that. Yeah,
that Retrofied magazine, which I still haven't read. I bought it, but I still haven't read it.
I just got issue number 2 yesterday. It's on my coffee table.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
But yes, box set.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
it's one of.
What about it?
I was just gonna say I posed with the DVDs fanned out in my next photo after that, saying can't talk now, doing hot reboot shit, or something like that, or hot nerd shit. Yeah. And that was a fantastic weekend. I just binged the entire thing.
Nice.
Yes.
So as if you're watching us on YouTube, you may notice that some of her home has some reboot.
Oh yes. There's my shrine right back there. Got like toys, hand painted icons, pins, all kinds of stuff. And then I also have a purple overlay in my house, so I literally live in a GameCube.
Oh shit.
Oh, they live inside of a GameCube.
Yes,
what game is playing?
The one where we're recording about an episode, because this is a game.
Whoa, that is oddly deep, which kind of connects to what this episode is about.
Exactly.
Before we get into this very psychedelic episode of ReBoot, one thing that we like to do on each of the shows is whenever we have a new guest or whenever we're opening something, we ask what your first interaction with when you were younger, what your first interaction with ReBoot was.
Okay. Let's see if I can recall, because this, a million years ago.
Of course.
This was back, I think, 99-ish. I was in 7th grade. It came out on Toonami down here in the States. And I want to say my first episode was in season 2. It might have been High Code.
Oh, God.
I know,
and you were
right?
like, oh, I'm never watching this again.
What an introduction.
Right?
I mean, to be fair, though, that kind of sets the bar low. So you could follow that up with literally any other episode, and it would be infinitely better.
But here's the problem, though. High Code and When Games Collide are back to back, and I don't like both of those episodes now as an adult.
Yeah, we were kind of iffy, I think, on When Games Collide, if I recall.
Yeah. And then Bad Bob comes along. It's like, okay, this doesn't suck as much as I thought it was. So you keep going with season 2, and then season 3 shows up, and it's like, hot damn, here we go. And then I hit high school, and season 4 comes out, and I'm like, okay, here we go in the infinite loop of halfway through season 4 back to season 1. So that just kind of continued throughout until I graduated in 05. So. And I've been kind of hot and cold over the last decade and change with binging and then forgetting about the show. And then last August, I saw something on IMDb saying, hey, who remembers ReBoot? And I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. So I found all the episodes on YouTube. I binged them over 2 days. And I'm like, I need to find the community. So I just jump on social media, and there y'all are.
Amazing.
So you got re-hyped on ReBoot right around the same time me and Cal first started podcasting about Beast Wars. Interestingly enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm rehyped about ReBoot. I feel it's weird. I haven't watched the show in decades, and I'm on a show about it, and Christopher and Sniddler and yourself, you all have paraphernalia. That makes it sound illegal. You all have,
Good.
You all have tokens or art or whatever, and well, I guess technically I have art of reboot, and I'm like, am I not like rebooting hard enough? But everybody does their own thing. Yeah, I'm running out of floor and counter space, so I'm trying to downsize my trinket and figure collection. Like I want to get rid of half my stuff.
Well, can't you just get creative and just start hanging shit on the walls?
I don't want to do that. I'm moving soon.
Oh, okay,
So
that makes sense.
downsize, and then when I find a new place, depending on if it's smaller or bigger, continue or go onto the walls.
There you go.
We shall see.
Cheers.
So, how about
That's
this
on my-
episode?
Yes, this episode.
Oh shit, someone called the cops.
No, that's an ambulance going down
They
the road.
heard me talking about paraphernalia. Reboot paraphernalia.
Oh.
Okay, so this
Hey,
episode...
that looks like a big bong. Hey, that looks like a big bong too.
Looks like a bad bong.
It's a
So,
joke relating to the Clerks cartoon, which I just binged through 2 days ago.
Nice.
Do you want to say something about that now or later, Siege?
I'll talk about it after it launches, but I did it.
Oh, okay.
I did it for a project that's coming up. In
Project.
maybe next week. Maybe that might
Ears
be launching
open,
next week.
people.
Yeah.
The mysterious Lasercomb project.
Depends on
So
other
what do you-
people's availability.
So sometimes a system in Reboot is a desert with a whole bunch of crystalline cities. And sometimes it's like mainframe, an ocean of like energon surrounding like a single city. And then other times it is a planet made entirely of satellites.
And that's
Like-
where we are.
And that's
Is this
that's
one of
where we
those
are.
times, good sir?
I think it is. This is weird. Is this like a Borg sphere? Kind of
When you,
scary looking.
wait, when you look at the planet in the shot as the GameCube is coming down, it kind of looks like a giant golf ball,
Yeah, I noticed that too.
which the game that the GameCube that comes down is a golf game, so I feel like that's probably intentional.
It's not until they're on the planet that you can see all the satellites.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, see, I actually didn't even catch that. Yeah, it's vaguely
Yeah,
got
but,
little
and yeah,
divots and
you can,
stuff.
but you can see all the the indentations of the satellite dishes, so it kind of gives the
It gives a vibe.
Yeah, it's evocative of a golf ball.
I agree now that I went back and looked at it. So this whole system, planet, system can be all sorts of things. My mind is being blown all the time. Gets games like any other system. We don't see any sprites or binomes in the system.
Just a bunch of satellites.
Bunch of satellites and the Dream Team, Matrix and Andrea and Frisket
Going up in an elevator.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Enzo is like basically bitching about how he's like getting sick of playing all the games, and because they never lead back to mainframe.
Yeah, it's like, I'm emo. I am despondent. I will never survive 2021 because I don't have any instant gratification about going back to my home.
Awfully judgmental. That
See,
I would never survive 2021.
I was just thinking, like sexy man child who is kind of feeling defeated right now, but
Christopher, we're talking about the show.
we're talking about Reboot, not me, okay?
Are we?
Oh, sorry, you were talking about Matrix. So, but you're both right. His ability to cope with something, maybe to us, we see in between. We see little snippets of their lives, but maybe they've done this thousands of times, and he's becoming
Frustrated.
Yeah, that's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I actually don't when I was a kid, I was like, blah blah blah. I don't care about his feelings. As an adult, I kind of jive with Matrix more.
Yeah. And this is why I love this episode so much, is because we're going to be taking a deep dive into Matrix's psychology and how he's been thinking all the way up through season 3 until this point. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good bridge in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
to deal
I also
with what he's buried.
Oh, definitely. And in his opening dialogues with Andrea, he mentions, we're not in control here.
The user decides where we go.
Exactly. And if you think back to episode 4 of season 3, Game Over, in that scenario, he also drops the line, we are not in control here, because it's up to the user. So we're seeing a bit of a thing going on here.
So it discusses his desire to be in control of situations a lot.
Yeah.
So apparently the user of this computer really likes this golf game so much that he isn't lending the floppy disk to his buddies so they can go to other systems.
They just keep re-downloading the same system.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, because he says this is it the fifth time?
The fifth time, yeah.
So that's interesting. I don't know if they've ever mentioned that. They can system hop, but sometimes, even if they go into AI mode, they can end up in the same system.
Yeah.
When the game... So, Christopher, you kind of just answered the next question I was going to have. How's that possible, and how can they leave if they wanted to? It's because he hasn't lent anybody else in the office his floppy disk of like cute animal
of
golf.
Like Mario Golf, yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea.
And that's why they've been.
That's
in
my
system.
theory.
I like it. Yeah,
I'll talk about it more when we get there, but I love the tiger user at the end. It is like the cutest thing I've ever seen in this show.
It's like a chubby little oh geez, why can't I remember? What was that little cartoon with the tiger and the little boy? It's his stuffed animal, but it's like a little comic in newspapers. Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a very cute, like the stuffed animal version of the tiger from that. Presumably Hobbes. I get the same vibes from that.
Plot twist. It was Calvin all along.
Oh, damn. Calvin's the user. So, yeah, they go up into the game, and it's golf again.
Fairway Frolics.
Fairway Frolics.
What a name for a
glitch
golf
isn't
game.
Working.
Right?
Yeah. Whenever Matrix uses glitch, and he's like, "Oh man, it's not working." How is this still surprising to him? Sometimes he'll throw it on the ground. Sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, it's not working," and it's like, it hasn't worked for years, bro.
It's like, I could say get a new one, but you just can't do that.
No.
Yeah,
You'd think you'd find someone. What's the head of a system called again? Like
the command.com or system admin. Yeah.
System. So Fong is system.
Command.
Admin.
Fong is the command.com.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's a system admin, but Dot is the military command.com. So Fong has never really had that role of command.com. He even referred in season 1 as the command.com has tried at every upgrade to delete Megabyte. So he's referring to somebody else.
The ReBoot wiki lied to me then.
He's referring to someone else? I thought it was just kind of like a nebulous power.
It could be
not
that
like
too.
An individual.
It's a thing.
Right, like a
it's a thing with
principle.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was number what was Wise One from that one episode? They
The
called him
command.com.
the command.com, and that was an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Before that,
it could take on different forms in different systems.
yeah, I'd always thought like it was a kind of just like the system programming. I didn't realize it was an individual. But like you said, the rules are very
Ambiguous.
loose.
Well, and
Yeah.
Dot is the command.com of mainframe right now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. What was she before? Was she always?
Command.com in training, especially in season 2.
Interesting.
because after you get done with the identity crisis thing, it's like Fong put her through those tests at the end of season 1 to kind of prove her worth. And then
that's a good way of looking at it.
Because she starts getting more and more military-ish responsibilities, especially in like Bad Bob when she's on the outside directing people around, and they're all on the inside in the game. So
that's an interesting point when she's on the outside trying to fix everything. She's always, even from episode 1, season 1, has been like economically repairing and fixing mainframe.
Definitely. Go ahead.
And then when a giant null monster attacked mainframe, her and 4 other teenagers with attitudes were recruited by Zordon and given swords.
I wish we could have seen that again. But I mean, that's when things picked up pace. Like every episode led into the other, and
that's when the show started becoming serialized.
It was no longer like a nebulous amount of time in between the episodes. It picked up right from the previous one.
Yeah, I think.
Then we started getting into these arcs.
Yeah,
I think it's. Do you feel like there's at least some large amount of time in between these recent episodes, and we're just getting glimpses of the systems that Andrea and Enzo are in?
I think so. I mean, between Game Over and Icons, there was obviously a significant amount of time, but it's never been specified how much.
Could be a week, could be months. Right.
And we know how time is convoluted in this show.
It is. So. I've never been able to figure it out. And as far as I can tell, there's no definitive answer.
I think time is whatever the writers want it to be in any given episode.
Yeah.
How dare you? So it's interesting.
It's whatever Gotham needs it to be, damn it.
It's whatever mainframe needs it to be. So it's interesting. We'd always seen it, but we've never seen anyone playing golf. There has always been that one rich district in mainframe that
Beverly Hills.
That's golf. It's all the 3D golf courses layered on top of each other. So that's where they're in right now.
Well, don't they go to that in Gigabyte? Because they they separate. Yeah, they detach it, and then with the intent
enjoy
of
your golf,
marooning him out there, and then like hack and or slash fucks it up.
I was just gonna say that.
Possibly both.
Yeah.
Who can say which one?
The game they're in.
No,
it was Slash. It was Slash because Hack got his energy deleted. So
lies. There's no way to know.
Christopher will never know.
No,
it's a mystery. It's like how does the moon stay in orbit? Nobody knows. Magic.
Cheese,
right?
McDonald's hamburgers.
The cheese gods. The cheese gods. So
you guys remember those Moon Man, like those old, like probably not because I'm slightly older than you two. But back in the like late 80s, McDonald's had these like commercials that had this dude called Moon Man, and it was literally a dude in a suit like playing piano, like singing like jazz, and his head was like a crescent moon.
Nope.
Look it up. They're on YouTube. The commercials are on YouTube.
Or were they parodying an old black and white movie?
Well, those are definitely from McDonald's. They might have been parodying something, but
okay.
Look up Moon Man, McDonald's Moon Man on YouTube.
Like, I will definitely do that.
They're pretty wild.
Just old McDonald's. Oh, you want to see wild? Look up Japanese McDonald's commercials. Some of them are scary, and some of them are like sexy. It's
interesting.
Some of them are both like, at the same time.
With like models that are dressed like Ronald McDonald, and like they like lick like ketchup that drips off the burger off the
I've seen memes of those. Yeah. I never knew the context. Yeah.
Their Japanese Ronald McDonald is so high energy. Anyways, we're not talking about McDonald's here.
We're back in the game.
We're talking about the game, and the game is mainframe. And at first, Matrix is like, I didn't like the episode where he deludes himself in the last one, where he's like, "Oh, it has to be Bob," and I was afraid that was gonna happen here, but I appreciate that he checks himself real quick, and Andrea supports him, and he's like, "You're right. It can't be mainframe. We're in a game." And he's like, "Well, oh, what if they copied the whole of mainframe into it?" And Andrea's like, "Is that possible?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah,
So
like
he knows it's not real.
yeah, like Andrea's being logical about everything, like she is, and Matrix is like trying to emotionally reason if it is mainframe or not. It's another
He
like
quickly
dynamic.
comes around.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
quickly comes around. But all it would take is a few minutes in this place to realize something's off.
Yeah, especially when glitch doesn't work.
That's the first clue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the very least, it's always shown game stats or system stats have always worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched this morning. I was ahead of the episode very quickly. I'm like, oh yeah, I see what's happening.
Yeah.
This is
I
some
think
kind of
even
dream
as a kid,
sequence.
even as a kid, I'm like, oh, something's weird, right? Like
Yeah.
it's accessing his memories, or it's a dream, or like something's off. Yeah. Like all the acting, right? Like it's like actors playing Dot and Bob. I have never seen Bob so angry before. Please, Bob, don't hurt Hack and or Slash. And
Yeah, that bit's weird.
Yeah.
it opens weird, yeah. So Dot and Bob.
Bob, who is now voiced by Cheetor from Beast Wars.
Yes. And I guess he catches up to Hack and Slash, and they're like, "Oh, you're not angry with us, Bob?" And he's
It's
like,
like,
"No."
I'm not mad at either one of you.
Now assume the position, and I'm like,
I was like, hold on.
Hold up.
On?
And they turn around
Gets
and
out a
bend
giant
over.
fucking golf club, and he's like, now assume the position. And I'm like,
He pulls out a big driving iron, like comically like large.
yeah. And they assume the
indeed,
position and bend over, and he fucking floors them.
Back to the tour.
Yeah, back to the tour.
He even says, "Look at that, a hole in one," because they land right through the opening at the top.
Yeah.
And Dot's like, are you happy now? Well, actually, yes, I am.
He even does this thing which happens a lot, and before Christopher brought to light, that he goes, "Be seeing you." Christopher, now is a good time more than ever. Is this episode perhaps close to a certain old TV series?
Just a little bit.
Can you give us the rundown of it?
There was a British television series in the 1960s called The Prisoner that was basically about this dude who ends up getting knocked out, and he wakes up in his flat, and everything seems normal at first, but what he ends up discovering is that like his flat is in this village that's been like this like artificial village, and everyone in it, nobody has names. They all have numbers designating them. My cat just...
That was a weird sound for a cat.
A wild cat appears. But yeah, so everybody in the town has doesn't have names. They have numbers. The protagonist of the show, who is never named, is known as Number 6. The name of this episode is Number 7.
And it's the seventh episode.
It's the 7th episode. There's another character. One of the other main characters in the show is Number 2. And there's this big mystery about, like, who is Number 1 in the show. And Number 1 seems to be the, like, nefarious mastermind behind everything going on in this weird, like, recreated version of number 6's town that he lived in.
It's also very zany.
It's
kind of scary.
It's very surreal. It's a really, really surreal show. I watched a few episodes of it when I was a teenager, so like about 20 years ago now. Haven't seen it since, but like even now watching this episode, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're doing The Prisoner.
I had no idea before you mentioned it.
And like to jump ahead a little bit, like it throughout this episode, like the big mystery that is like that Enzo is chasing down is like who is number one. Everything culminates in a big like courtroom thing, which is what happens in the Prisoner. Hack and or slash sing Dry Bones, which is a bit that happens in The Prisoner. The spoilers, I guess, but the end of the episode, number 1 ends up getting revealed to be Enzo himself, and in The Prisoner, number 6 finds out that number 1 is actually like a reflection of like the evil within himself. It's all very surreal and kind of meta.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this is pretty much...
This is literally just like spot on, like The Prisoner. Pretty much everything in this episode is just homaging that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a very close copy, but it is interesting in the context of the show. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, everybody in a lot of the throughout that series, a lot of the townsfolk do the whole like "be seeing you" thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the hand gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that they mix golf in with this. And in the context of that TV show, The Prisoner, breaking it, even though it's almost like paint by numbers, like copying that show, it's still an interesting episode because of like what it explores with individually Matrix
with
himself.
Enzo as a character. Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't take away from the importance of the episode. Mm-hmm. I think, but it is important to mention what it references.
I'm gonna find out what my cat wants.
Okay.
Yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, because I was gonna piggyback off of that and say not only is this really good for Matrix's character development, but it's also really good for Andrea because, as we're going to see very shortly, she reboots into hexadecimal. And when I study Andrea from that perspective, she's always been very logical, very cool-headed, etc. And now she gets to play with her emotions and explore those a little bit more on the spectrum of emotion that hexadecimal also shows us in previous seasons.
So it's kind of like she, even though Andrea, because Andrea and like Frisket aren't real because this is all in Matrix's head, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting that Andrea, after so we'll just talk about that now. Andrea reboots as hexadecimal, Matrix reboots as Megabyte. And Frisket reboots as Scuzzy, the little round like dog thing. Cat dog thing?
Cat dog.
That accompanies hexadecimal. And you're right, she slowly kind of like lets herself fall into the role more and more. Lets herself be chaotic and like wild.
Yeah.
And it puts us in that already. I'd like to point out, by the way, a classic hexadecimal, not reborn hexadecimal.
Right, we're talking like season 1 hex right now.
Yeah, the design is season 1 hex, not garter like fetishy.
Fetish gear, yeah. Fetish gear. Hexadecimal.
That being said, still very fetishy, but less so.
Yeah. And to actually piggyback off of that, I can appreciate the fact that we see season 3 body and season 1 clothes. Like they kept that.
Oh, I noticed the face. Yeah, like the eyelashes
and the goods and all the other things. So.
Yeah, no BS&P here. There's no need for mono boob anymore.
Nope.
Bodysuit. Instagram bodysuit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Throughout this, sometimes they sound like megabyte or hexadecimal, but most of the time they sound like themselves.
Yep.
But the game sprites in this episode don't only hear Megabyte's voice or Hexadecimal's voice, it seems.
One would assume,
and
yeah.
One would assume, yeah.
Yeah.
And not to jump ahead too much, but it's interesting that they have to Matrix has to deal with like the fear of his sister not recognizing him or not believing him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because she didn't really recognize his capabilities or take a lot of what he said seriously in the show. At least he felt that.
Mm-hmm.
But she did let him go off
Yeah.
and do a lot of things, which is how he ended up leaving Mainframe in the first place.
Right.
Well, and also, like, if Enzo just showed up in Mainframe right now, would Dot even believe that it was him?
Mm-hmm.
I think if he didn't reboot as Megabyte, then yeah, then he could have walked up and been like, "How else did I get this tattoo?" Because the tattoo is the same one as his sister, and who else would remember
It's a
that?
variation. It's a variation.
It's slightly
on the tattoo.
different. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really want that tattoo. Side note.
Hey, you only live once.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's interesting that the show has him as this big, gruff, like tough guy who like shoots viruses in the head to kill him. But so much of the show explores his like vulnerability and his like weaknesses and his fears. That's
right.
Very surprising because we were coming off of the decade where like men didn't have feelings and they fought predators like covered in mud holding a machete. Right? Like...
Come on, do it! Kill me! Do it now!
Exactly. So I actually really appreciate that watching it now. Absolutely didn't understand or appreciate it as a kid.
That was also the decade where individuals would walk around and stalk the night armed with swords and challenge others to a duel.
You don't say.
In a dark alleyway.
In a dark alleyway.
This is Christopher's neighborhood.
I mean, it's not far off from the neighborhood that I work in, but...
Minus the swords and add orange traffic cones, then that's a perfect match to it.
And throw in some crack pipes and yeah, there you go. That's my neighborhood.
So there's some weird I never noticed it till now, but because Andrea and Matrix are obviously romantic, presumably sexually, I presume so.
I don't even know how that would work.
Partners? Don't think about it too hard. Seeing hexadecimal like with her arm draped around Mexadecimal with her arm draped around Megabyte is...
Hey, Mexadecimal is like that's their couple name. Early 2000s power couple name.
Megadecimal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little weird, but I mean, they're already very weird, so I don't know. Is it weird? Did you guys find hexadecimal like caressing Megabyte's muscles odd? In the scene where they're watching Scuzzy.
Right.
Yeah,
now
and
that
they're
I think
looking
about it,
through
it is
the
a little
looking
weird.
glass.
It is.
See, it's only when I have it paused, I'm like...
But here's the thing, though. It's like, when has Andrea ever been, like, physical with Matrix?
She
like
touches
that?
his chest often.
He does, and that can be, like, a touch of affection. But it's like, we've never seen them, like, draped all over each other, even though this is a non-BSMP season, so...
I'm sure they've kissed.
So we know deep down, Enzo's fantasy is that he really wants hexadecimal to just be all over him.
I mean, Does anybody not want that? So what they look at, Megadecimal, Andrea, and Enzo they're looking through Scuzzy's head,
Looking glass. Yeah.
which is like a crystal ball, and they hear this game version of Bob and Dot talk about, we must never let them find number one.
And it's like number one is the objective of this game.
Exactly. They're like,
Yep.
oh, okay, so we have to find number one. Cool.
Now, I actually want to jump back about 10 seconds before
Okay.
that. And when Andrea suggests, hey, let's reboot and see what happens, Matrix is very resistant because he doesn't want to potentially reboot himself into little Enzo.
That's important.
Which I've worked hard to become what I am. I put that weak little boy behind me. There's nothing left of him in me now. And my commentary to that is that we all have to remember where we've come from and that we are built on the foundation of what we did when we were younger. So as much as we would like to erase those like really shitty memories from our life, we always have to embrace them too, because that what we did back then makes us who we are now.
I think he viewed all of his failures as who he was, not who he is.
Yeah.
I would just like to
oh,
say,
if he was stronger, he could have saved Bob. If he was stronger, he wouldn't have lost the game.
Right.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Christopher.
I would just like to say that when I was an 11-year-old boy, I was watching Beast Wars and Reboot. So,
Yeah.
And that built who you are today, so.
yep. Just reinforces that point.
Yeah, that's a good moment to touch upon. There's a little comedy moment where Megabyte Matrix is like in that
Megatrix.
floaty chair. Yeah. I'm just gonna say
Matrix bite. Yeah, that's
Matrix Bite. Yeah. And he's like
Enzo
wiggling in
Bite.
his chair.
fine. Enzo bite.
Enzo Bite.
Yeah.
There we go.
And
he's
I have
like,
a
"This
knack
feels-"
for this.
He's like, this feels weird.
He's like wiggling his
like-
butt around.
He's like wiggling around that ball joint that's his torso around. He's like, "Can you pass me my legs?" And I'm like, "How did he get his legs before?
Hack and slash.
What if they weren't there? Did he just wait?"
Cyrus.
Maybe did he?
Oh,
Hey.
Cyrus was the boot shiner, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So where are we at here?
Let's
Hack
see.
and Slash has 3 arms in the bit. So they're bickering. Hack and Slash are bickering to each other, and Hack lifts up an arm to talk like this, and then I can't even remember what order they are. I passed it, and the other one lifts up both arms, and then when it cuts back to the other one, there's just a third arm that comes up and does this. So there's 3 arms. I just caught that.
Nice.
Like they gesture with their hands a lot, and like I think it was Hack. 3 arms are just there to like triple emphasis, and I was like, you know what?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's the
I've
red
never
one.
noticed that before, even though
Yeah.
I just watched the episode, and that's I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like subtle little comedic moments like put in the show that shows like they really care.
Yeah. And then there's also the dialogue between Andrea and Matrix about Enzo Bite telling them to be quiet. And she's like, oh, that voice is so strong and commanding. Definitely not a little boy's. But Matrix chimes in with, no, it is much worse than that. It's everything that I hate. Then Andrea brings up a point, is that everything you hate or everything you're afraid of becoming, with the voice dip into hexadecimal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh, psychological Matrix, let's go. And then he stops, it's like, this is too weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get a little bit in the principal office with Bob, Dot, and Fong.
Anything important they say?
Not really. They're
No?
just
Except-
like they're just like, yeah, it's quiet. Megabyte has never like it. Megabyte has never been this quiet before, and Fong's like, perhaps Megabyte has done an about face, and Bob's like, I don't buy
Changing
that.
face is more hexadecimal style.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
Hey.
Right.
I missed that that deadpan joke. I watched it earlier too. But yeah, so Fong and the others
one of the
definitely-
CPUs like radios in and is like, "There's a bogey heading toward the principal office," and
Oh, it
Dot's
could be
like,
a birdie.
a birdie or a bogey? Definitely a bogey.
A bogey named Megabyte.
And I'm like, all right. that was
Okay,
that was an important bit of dialogue. Really,
and
writers?
a really low res, like no reflection version of Specs is in that video call.
Weirdly enough,
know-
not
Oh.
voiced by Scott McNeil in this bit
Really?
in this shot. Yeah,
He was busy doing Scotty things,
maybe he was in California
visiting.
visiting original Bob.
Yeah. I don't like seeing, after all this time, seeing Bob and Dot again, and them being like skeptical and dumb. I'm like, hey, I know it's not them, and that's the point, but it's weird that they're showing the viewer this much of their dialogue when it's not about them, and it's not really them.
I found
Right.
that strange.
I feel like
too.
there's wasted. You too?
Yeah.
I feel like it's wasted airtime by having the focus be on them when not only are they not even in a game, it's all a figment of Matrix's mind, but I don't think he would remember them as pessimistic and this weird, right?
Well, he was a child. So, I don't know. Maybe
There was a little bloop. Am I still here? Oh, Alistair.
Yeah.
Is Alistair here?
No, my screen jumped from corner down. So now
Yeah,
I'm
I
underneath
heard a
Christopher.
bloop. And
Weird. Are we still recording or?
we are not recording.
Shit.
I try to point that out as soon as possible.
Oh, there he is.
Now recording.
Should
Yeah,
we do a
this-
clap sync?
just creates a irritating bit of editing bullshit for me.
Mer.
So sorry, Christopher, you were saying like you kind of feel that it's wasted airtime showing the viewer all of these like conversations between imaginary Bob and imaginary Dot.
Yeah, I think what they were going for was they were trying to make it feel like an old episode of Reboot, but
we don't want that.
but none of this has anything to do with like what's going on with Enzo and what's going on with his emotional journey that he seems to be going through.
So why does this matter in hindsight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like, I get what they were probably going for, but I don't think it works.
I don't think it expands on anything either, because they don't act like Bob. If they had acted like how Enzo imagines them to be, that would make more sense, right? But they don't act like Bob or Dot at all. So it's a little bit weird. Did Megabyte always have that air hog, that air chopper?
That
He
air
probably did in storage, but he never used it until now because this is
no, we saw him use it in Firewall.
Briefly,
right.
we don't get a lot of shots of it. We only see him from like the waist up, like driving it. We never see any like full shots of it. You're right, because
Yeah,
yeah.
his
it looks
hover
rad.
trike.
I want it.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
I want one.
So Enzo Byte, I'm sure it would be what? Only like $200,000-$300,000
Yeah, only. It's fine.
only. And so Megabyte.
We can take it out of the Patreon fund.
Oh God, we'll be paying that off for decades.
Speaking of Patreon, I think this is a good time to break for a little word about the Lasercomb Patreon.
Do you like 90s animation?
I do.
Do you have $2 burning a hole in your pocket?
I do. Wait, no, I'm broke right now.
Do you want to listen to 3 grown men talk about 90s cartoons like it was yesterday?
I know I do.
I mean, I'm already doing that, so why would I want to listen to someone else do it?
Dude, you're supposed to say yes. Give us money.
All you need to do is subscribe to the Lasercomb Patreon. For $2 a month, you get access to our Discord channel, which is where we record all of these fine shows. And you also get our eternal gratitude. Isn't that the greatest gift of all?
Besides money.
Besides money?
Which is
what
a
we
gift
want.
to us.
This is a very good gift to us, yes.
I'm sure Christopher can salvage something out of this.
Look at all my Cheetos. Look at them.
Behold the field upon which I grow my Cheetos.
So yeah, where were we?
Oh, Enzo Byte just walks straight into the principal office, and they're like, "Megabyte, how did you get in here?" And I'm like, "He opened the door." Walks through.
He knocked, and someone just let him in.
I waited by the door, and when somebody else opened it, I just squeezed my way in. Is that illegal? To, like, enter an apartment or a condo-like complex by just, like, waiting near the door and, like, squeezing
I
in?
think nowadays it is. It didn't used to be.
Man, because I do not
I have
hold the
done
door
that
for
many
other
times
people.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I do not let other people in. Unless I know for a fact they live in the building. Like, I know their name, and I have an odd amount of coworkers that have been in and out of my building. Or like, I see them coming out, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's my neighbor. But, like, if I don't recognize them, man, you're not getting in.
Exactly.
I've even, like...
Safety's paramount nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've even opened it, and somebody, especially when Amazon and other delivery drivers just drop the items, like, by the mail or outside your door.
Mm-hmm.
You could sneak into a building and just walk through and, like, pick up packages and get out. Speaking of just walking in and grabbing packages, though, that does not happen on this. There's no package grabbing.
No.
But there's tea.
Unfortunate.
There's a saucer and a teacup.
Yep.
On a podium. Was Fong drinking that, or is that just there for dramatic effect? Fong was drinking it. Okay.
Fong was having his hot chocolate. He was having a hot chocolate.
Okay.
Moment.
Some hot cocoa.
Yes.
Yeah. So Bob jumps at Enzo Byte, and he just, like, catches Bob, and he's like, "Hey, if this was actually a game, I could end it right now, but won't."
I'm not.
And he gently puts him down. He's like, and then in Megabyte's voice, he's like, "I need you to trust me." And I'm like, maybe try the Enzo voice.
Mm-hmm. But it was also half and half until the phrase "trust me," and then Tony J jumps in with his gloriousness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, long story short, they don't want to trust him.
No.
He's like, "Oh, sis, it's me," and I'm like,
And he's like, "I'm Enzo," and he gives that ashamed facial expression because he's like, "Fuck, I have to refer to myself as my little kid version that I don't want any association with."
Which has been shown that he doesn't want to be called that, even by Andrea, which is curious.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to quickly summarize, they don't believe him, and so Bob like shoots Enzo Bite with a golden shower, and coming from Glitch, and they're all like, he's going to be
particle beam.
He's going to be filed away, and Enzo Bite's like, I don't want to be filed away, and a big arm comes and grabs him, lifts him up, and is gonna pull him into a literal drop him into a literal filing cabinet, and Enzo Bite is all like, fuck that, and uses his
viral
he uses his Megabyte powers to viral infect the arm to let him go.
That's a wild trip. So he says, I don't want to be filed.
Debriefed, indexed, etc., which is an actual
Debriefed,
quote
dexed.
from the prisoner.
Yeah.
That little chunk.
Yeah.
Not wanting to just be a number.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
It's like, my life is my own. You won't hold me.
Yep.
So what happens after
that?
We go back to
hexadecimal?
Hexadrea is...
Hey!
Hexadrea is sitting in front of her like looking glass thing, being all like, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad. I've never been so in touch with my emotions. Which I'm like, I'm kind of jelly. As someone who is like clinically emotionally unstable, I'm kind of...
Don't you wish you could just be like, okay.
Yes, I do.
I just did. I experienced all those emotions.
And then I do that so much that I eventually just like go mad.
What about all of the emotions at once? The DVD
Carve
copy,
like a smile on my face and like...
Some sort of old jazz starts playing. Trumpet music. Exactly. I hope to hear music like that in Christopher's inevitable descent into madness.
Well, I've got a saxophone back there from back in the day. I could probably...
You should provide background music for Christopher's descent into
my descent into madness will be a weird like miasma between like death metal, country music, and 80s new wave.
Okay.
If you know anything that fits that, send it our way so it can be Christopher's theme song.
Okay.
I just noticed the DVD copy of this calls Andrea Hex-Andrea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Next time I'll look to see what it calls Enzo.
It's
probably just Enzo Megabyte.
It says in normal voice or in Megabyte.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
The closed caption on Crave just says Andrea.
Okay.
So what do we got here? Enzo Bite comes back on his chopper. Wow, that thing is decked. Man, that is rad looking. Now that I'm seeing it up close. It's got missiles, it's got a sweet skull in the front.
It's got everything.
Everything a growing boy needs.
Andrea's like, that's a nice bike. And Enzo's like, what is it with you and bikes?
Recurring
like,
theme.
I feel like that's a long withstanding comment.
That's a theme this season, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's already been a theme often.
Well, this entire season, yeah.
It's like you got episode 2, you've got episode 3, you've got now.
Yeah.
He's the one writing it this time.
I know, but she still likes it.
Give it to her.
Right?
And this is when things start to unravel, and it's like, obviously, Andrea's acting weird too. Right? Because he says, I think she calls him Megabyte.
Yeah, she's like, what's wrong with being Megabyte? And Matrix says, everything about Megabyte is wrong. But then she counters and says, is it really? The strength, the control, the power, isn't that everything you've wanted? And he says, no, not like this, and not at the expense of Bob and the others, which indicates like a lingering respect for Bob and the others.
So when I was
even
watching,
in a viral form.
When I was watching this episode this morning, and Hexadrea said that to Enzo Byte, my first thought, not gonna lie, was like, you know what? I might actually be tempted by all of this.
How so?
I could probably... Her, like, reasoning there of being like, isn't this everything you've wanted? Like, power, control, strength. Mm-hmm. Especially having it, like, thrusted upon him like this. Like, if it were me, I don't know. Especially with having, like, someone at my side. Like, someone that is important to me. Someone that I love. Mm-hmm. Kind of being like, hey, you know, it's okay. I could probably... I might... If I was in Enzo's position here, I'm not... I might get lost in it.
You just let it consume
So,
you?
Yeah.
If Morpheus has a blue and a red pill in front of you, you might take the blue pill and enjoy that steak that Cypher wanted to eat so badly.
Yeah.
You could get lost in this reality.
In the Matrix, I can kind of see why Cypher wanted to go back. I wouldn't I wouldn't do what he does in that film to get to that point.
Obtain that.
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, kill the people that I've been, like, living and working with for, like, X number of years to do it, but I could see why he would maybe want to go back to that and just be ignorant to the reality of things.
Yeah. He's like, I want to be rich, and I want, like, a hot wife, and I want to eat steak.
Yeah.
Because, like, what do they eat? They eat, like, protein slurry in the real world, in Zion. But Matrix... I can dedicate a whole podcast or 10 to the Matrix. We're talking about Reboot Matrix. And he's determined to prove to them that he's Enzo, not Megabyte.
So even if I have to defeat them all to do it.
Sorry, go ahead and say.
I was going to say, even if I have to defeat them all to do it, claws out, unbridled rage. It's like, here we go.
In Megabyte's voice.
Yeah, I love that bit where he's like... He's like, I have to prove to them that I'm sincere, that I'm Enzo, and switches to Tony J's voice. And he shoots his like Wolverine claws out, even if I have to delete them to do it.
Right?
Does he say delete or defeat?
He says delete.
Delete.
Yeah.
Okay, that was I misheard that. Whoops.
Yeah, he says delete, and they both cackle. Or hexadecimal, Andrea, cackle villainously. So I'm like, hold up, what is going on? Nobody's acting like themselves. Like, Kid Me was probably like, okay, so what's going on here? Like, it's clearly not reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or the game is like messing with everyone's head.
Yeah, I always assumed that Enzo was dreaming.
It's weird that he acts like Megabyte. Like he gets lost in the role too.
I think that is I think that's a commentary on the fact that he's kind of like his journey through the games. He's kind of losing who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. There's the analogy, right?
Yeah.
I like
symbolism, I mean. So when Enzo Byte comes out of his like secret hidey hole down that alleyway, there's a vid window that says Reservoir Ones, and it's quite clearly a Reservoir Dogs reference. It's got a whole bunch of one binomes wearing different suits with different colored ties and
Oh,
like black
yeah,
and white
yeah,
with
I
blood
see it
splattered
now,
on
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
just caught that.
The exact
Reservoir
same,
ones.
yeah, the reservoir ones. It's the exact same font that's used on the Reservoir Dogs poster.
With
Yeah,
the
yeah.
blood over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Good catch.
So they're fans. They're Tarantino fans.
This was only a
So-
few years after that movie came out. Just think about that for a second.
Oh, I remember when my knees still worked.
I don't. They were bad at birth.
Oh, jeez.
Nah.
Actually.
Stupid genetics.
Yeah.
So we get a scene where Enzo Byte and Hex Andrea are on the chopper.
Yeah.
Heading to the
And they're
diner.
driving towards the diner, and some interesting dialogue goes by.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how to.
Approach it.
Yeah. And
'Cause-
any thoughts?
Because Andrea is starting to like really get into her role as hexadecimal with that emotion spectrum that we talked about a couple of minutes ago, and Matrix is talking about ending the game, and she goes completely viral, scary tooth mask and everything. She's like, "Smoking like a true virus," and he is like, "Dude, back off! You're getting way too much into your role right now." And then she like whacks him in the head and is like, "Lighten up, Megabyte." And then he corrects her and says, "That's Matrix." It's like, is he reclaiming his identity as Matrix right now? Like, is he having that war in his head between the two?
He's pulling away from the role because he says this insanity stops now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on to a scene as he crashes into the diner where now he has to confront that.
Yep.
So
And
you're
this
right.
is-
I think he's putting that aside and he's addressing reality to some extent.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So when he gets into the diner, it's this weird, like, black void, and we see Mike the TV and Cecil on a, like, teeter-totter, like, moving back and forth. And we see a collection of 12 individuals in...
Creepy.
Yeah, in
Creepy.
bleachers. It's straight up from The Prisoner. It's they're the jurors in
The jurors,
Prisoners.
which are horrifying.
Yeah.
So there's a giant one binome.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
twice the size of a refrigerator. What is that supposed to be? And the
That-
top is all
I don't
scratched.
know.
Yeah, I'm about ready to come up on that. Maybe kind of like an audio speaker or recorder.
I was wondering
or
if it was a... Yeah, because you know how there's always somebody who like types
A
out the
stenographer,
transcript
yeah.
and something like that, but like
Yeah,
the
I've got it.
scratches on it and it's big. Is it like a server?
It's possible. It could be the data recording for the trial at hand, and I guess kind of like an audio stenographer kind of thing.
Yeah, I just found it interesting.
What does the reboot wiki say?
I did
It says
not.
there's a giant black one binome in this scene.
With a big
sometimes,
blink eye.
sometimes the and he kind of has it. Sometimes the wiki is unusually has a lack of detail or is just off. We've caught and edited like 2 or 3 like pretty big mistakes on the wiki.
Gotcha.
Sniddler specifically has gone in and done it.
Yes, I
He's
have
the
not
wiki
edited
editor.
shit.
We've caught it, and Sniddler's been the one to execute it.
Nice.
Yes, he is the one who is truly doing God's work.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah,
many
I
like
don't know
grammatical
what
and
that
spelling
is.
errors on that wiki. Like it would take weeks to go through every article.
Oh, yeah. Huh. And they're like fireman poles?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, not. I wasn't thinking something else. I was thinking fireman poles. You jump down and they.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we agree on that.
That's a conversation conversation for another podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, the jury's chant of "Here Comes the Judge" is from a 1960s song by Pigmeat Markham.
Huh.
Interesting.
What a great name. Pigmeat Markham.
I mean, it sticks with you, right? That sounds
Here
like
come the judge. Here come the judge.
Pigmeat Markham sounds like the name of a like NPC in Fallout 3.
Dog meat Markham. Yeah. But Markham is MARK''EM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Reboot
Dog
Wiki
meat
says
Markham.
nothing about that giant
Of
ass
course
dude.
it.
Okay.
Of course
So it is
it
up
would.
for interpretation.
Sweet.
Yay.
I think you were right. It's kind of like a speaker / recording device / server that to witness the trial. Yes. And so yeah, everything goes pure insanity at this point.
Yes.
Bob ascends from the ground behind a judge's podium. What's
podium.
their? Yeah. And he even has a hammer and man, help me out here. What is
Gavel.
the, what?
A
Gavel.
gavel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Imagine having that power where there's a device just meant for you to slam and make noise so people listen.
Silence in court.
You could just carry a gavel around and try that out in public.
You can just
Yeah, I
smack
don't think
things
it's
or
the
smack
same.
people.
Or smack people, yes,
I
I'm
have
on
a
board.
feeling. I have a
You might
feeling
be
I
one
might
of
get in
those.
trouble for that.
In this day and age,
So, the prosecution.
Just say
needs
you're
to lay
medically
its charges,
exempt.
and I can get away with anything.
And you can get
right?
away with anything.
yeah.
So Dot comes out and says, "My lord, the defendant is charged." Go ahead.
No,
I'll let you.
Fine. The defendant is charged with believing that the ends justify the means and of becoming everything he claims to hate. Two separate things.
And Enzo doesn't get a chance to talk. Enzo bite, and he's like, "Your Honor," and Bob ignores him and immediately turns to the jury and says, "How do you find the defendant?" Guilty.
It's like, where's my defense?
Yeah, I was going to point that out. So, Enzo Bite is like, Your Honor, this is no trial. Where's my defense? And Judge Bob is like, good point. Bring in the character witnesses. It's like, that's not a defense.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like, but no, that's just bringing up witnesses.
Yeah,
Also, the judge can't call witnesses.
Yeah, like
the prosecution or the defense does. So it's loosely teaching kids how movie courtrooms work, which is not like reality.
Hey, I watched a shit ton of Law and Order as a child. Okay, I know.
And you
the
can
legal
assure
system.
me that you could defend yourself in court.
Yeah.
Effectively is another matter. So up the fireman poles, Hack and Slash come up singing "Dem Bones."
This is a direct reference to a bit from the. I mean, this entire like closing sequence is like from
more
The
so
Prisoner.
than the rest of it.
Yeah,
much more so. It being number 7 and the game being weird, but especially all this court sequence.
Yeah,
it is very much The Prisoner.
Uh-huh.
And their Hack and Slash's testimony is, he's a very bad man.
Oh, and mean.
And mean. Oh yeah, and I forgot, mean.
And then Bob
That
turns to the jury and is like, and how does the jury find the defendant?
Guilty. And then
guilty.
They descend back down the pole with like smoke, like a wrestling exit or entrance. And they continue singing "Dem Bones." It's
Dem bones, dem
insanity.
bones, dem dry bones.
Dry bones, dem.
That's probably
And
going
they
to be the
just disappear.
music at the end of this episode.
Yes.
It's catchy.
It
It's
has
good.
to be.
I like
It's
"Here Comes
catchy.
the Judge" too.
Here comes the judge.
So after he's found guilty, Enzo Bite is kind of like, but I'm Enzo. I'm your brother. You must believe me.
And Dot's like, stop saying you're my brother. So she's totally denying his existence. And then she rushes to him, and he tries to grab her, and she just vaporizes.
And I feel like this is symbolic of Enzo, like deep down, kind of feeling like he's losing himself. Like he's losing himself.
And his motivations. Because the last few episodes, just to cut in quick because my ADD will make me forget, you said he's losing himself. The entire arc where he's been an adult, he's been frustrated about trying to get back home. And it almost seems like he wants to quit. So has he lost so much of himself that he doesn't even want to go back?
I think it's because
most of his life has been in the games.
His loss in Game Over really just like struck him that he lost his identity as a guardian and just as a person in general. It's like, I couldn't win this game, so now I'm off on this journey to find myself again. But in the back of my mind, it's like I'm still going to have that loss affecting me for the rest of my life, and that's what's going to build me into the adult I am now.
Yeah, this episode, like, it's interesting because it, like, basically, like, Xeroxes the prisoner, but it does explore some really interesting stuff regarding Matrix as a character.
Earlier in this podcast, I mentioned even though it mirrors the prisoner, especially at the end, like almost one for one, it does explore it. That doesn't take away from it. Yeah. So Bob says something pretty big here to Enzo Bite. He says, actions speak louder than words. You betrayed the memory of your sister. How does the jury find the defendant? So that's interesting.
Guilty.
And I took note on that as well, Cal. And Dot, every time Enzo Bite said to Dot, I'm your brother, she would deny it. But now that Bob says, memory of your sister, does Bob knew? So Bob knew this entire time that Enzo Bite was brother to Dot this entire time. So he recognizes the fact that Enzo is her brother.
Well, Bob's his self-doubt. His self-doubt in this, right? And the viruses manifest as obstacles or fears. Things that are very powerful that, again, he wants to be powerful, but that he doesn't want to be at what cost, which is why they rebooted as the viruses. So Bob this whole time is his self-doubt. Because the last person he wants to disappoint was Bob.
Yeah,
he was like a hero to him.
And that's a perfect lead into the next note I have, because in the next piece of dialogue, Matrix asks Bob for help in this situation. But even Bob, who is essentially Matrix's raison d'etre, still insists on a guilty sentence because he starts chanting it in front of his face. So there's a possible sense of betrayal by his childhood hero for everything that Matrix has become in this game.
Yeah, and because at this point it's not necessarily like the individual characters. That whole like doubting himself is, like I said, self-doubt and insecurity. That's why he's like saying guilty or whatever. He's kind of being confronted with the fact that, you are, how much are you willing to sacrifice to?
Right.
And what do you want to become? Like he's still a young adult, right? And this resonates if you're a young adult watching this, because, man, the scariest freaking thing anyone can ask you is, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? You have to decide like yesterday. And you're like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, all the way through your 20s. Hey, pro tip, you never need to answer that question. I'm in my 30s and I haven't answered.
I was just going to say, like, I'm 36 years old now, and, like, that is still a fucking scary-ass question to hear.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I'm like, I
hate that. My early adult life was ruined by people making me trying to force me to like choose like a path and like stick to it, which is weird because
Right.
they were all boomers that never went to university themselves.
Yeah.
So if I had any advice for young me, it wouldn't be invest in Google or anything. It would be don't listen to people older than you. Don't go to university right away.
Yeah, and I'm 33. I'll be 34 next month, and I have always been inundated with the 5-year plan. Like, it's actually a thing.
Oh,
It's like you have to have short-term, long-term
Oh my
goals,
God.
and like this big finish line at the end of 5 years. Like, this is
And
the
if you
path you're
don't,
taking.
you might as well kill yourself.
Pretty much.
Total failure.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I
it's like
hate
I went
that,
to
yeah.
I went
Are
to
you
university
Gemini?
for. I am.
Our birthdays are close.
When's
We were
yours?
born. You're in '87 too. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. It's
Okay.
early next month.
Okay, I'm mid next month-ish.
Okay, so I am a week or two, a week older than you.
Okay, I'm on the Gemini Cancer cusp, but I'm Gemini, so
Okay.
cool.
That explains all the unfinished projects.
Exactly. Like, I've got drive to do so much shit in my life, and then it just kind of sits. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if I just have a fear of finishing things, and then it's just like, okay, what's next? Or if I always have that thing in the back of my mind, like, I can always do this later. Then I have 17 other things that pile up in my brain too, and then I get like decision fatigue, and I'm on my couch for an entire day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I have to put your birthday on my calendar now.
All right. So Christopher, are you a
Yes.
Gemini?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you're not plagued with crippling project indecision?
Not really, no.
No.
Okay.
No,
Which is
although,
why he's doing this.
well, I was just about to say, actually, me doing these shows for the past, like, nearly a year now, this is the most dedicated I've ever been to anything.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And, yeah, gonna keep doing it.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
on.
kind of like when I go ahead.
Keep on trucking. More shows coming soon.
More shows.
Until it's Christopher and I with like white beards, like talking about Rocco's Modern Life, and, like
In like
and-
the year
and-
like in the year like
2060.
2050.
yeah, we're talking about like cow and chicken. Doug.
Doug, Rugrats.
Hey Arnold, Rugrats, yeah. Listen up, kids.
And this week on the Teddy Ruxpin podcast, we're talking about the seventh. We actually passed through all 13 episodes of Teddy Ruxpin 10 years ago, but we just keep on going, because we're really dedicated to the process.
Shout out to our 3 Patreon subscribers. Sometimes it's fun to imagine being old and that cantankerous.
Oh yeah.
I find it terrifying to imagine being old, personally, but...
Man, I can't wait to do all that gardening.
Oh my gosh.
Get the running out of the way now, so that I can do gardening later.
Get my marathons done now.
But see, I am a person who is legitimately, like, actively terrified of death.
Okay.
My partner is, like, day-to-day existential, like, fear of that.
It wasn't until about I turned 33 that I actually started, like, consciously, like, thinking about the fact that, like, oh, I'm actually... Someday, and this is an inevitability, someday I am going to be grasping at my last breath, not wanting to die, but I'm going to, and there is nothing I can do about that.
Yep.
And that is horrifying to me.
Everything has a time and everything ends.
And I never thought about that until probably starting about 3 years ago. And yeah, I'm
I
scared, man. I'm scared.
I
I'm
imagine
scared.
Christopher at like a hospital bed, like next to me, and he's all like, "No, there's so much I want to do," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, finally!"
You're just like, finally, I don't have to record too much Energon anymore.
And we'll write that on your gravestone.
And you starts playing.
Oh, I'm actually tearing up over that one.
I like
Oh God.
my mom has this. I get my sense of humor from my mom, and she has a weird, fearless like sense of humor. And she's like, "Man, fuck like being so old, where like I can't like walk or like drive myself anywhere. I'm going out into the woods. I'm becoming like a druid, and the wolves and the bears can get me."
And the circle of life begins again.
And she's serious. She's just gonna disappear one day, and I'll be like, I have this joke with her where she'll like disappear to go get eaten by like wolves or whatever, and I'll like wander out to go and like try to find her, and a decade or two will go by, and I'm like, there's no way she's still alive. She'd be 80, 90 or something like that. And I find her as like an old woman like living like a druid, and she has like pet wolves and bears. And I'm like, what have you been doing? And she's like smoking a reefer, and she's like, just chilling.
Have either of you seen the animated film Wolfwalkers that came out last year?
Nope.
No.
It was an Apple TV Plus original film.
Okay.
It is legitimately one of my favorite films of last year. It's an animated movie that is based around Gaelic folklore.
Okay.
And it involves a girl who moves to this like town in like medieval England. Moves to this town with her father because her father has been hired to take care of this like werewolf problem that the town is having.
Okay.
And she ends up befriending this little girl, this really like rambunctious like wild girl. And it turns out that this girl is not a werewolf per se, but she's a wolf walker. So wolf walkers in this story, when they go to sleep, their like life force leaves their human body and becomes a corporeal wolf, sentient wolf. And this girl ends up becoming a wolf walker herself because of plot-related reasons. But it's a fantastic film. It's very heartwarming. It's very touching. The animation is gorgeous. I 150% recommend checking it out. One of the best movies of 2020.
All right, I have to check that out.
Okay. I will.
Yeah, and listeners, Wolfwalkers, watch that.
Wolfwalkers. There's also a old werewolf movie called Dog Soldiers. That if you want a scary werewolf movie, that is the best one I've ever seen. It's a UK film. And it is spooky and has the scariest
Who directed
werewolf
that?
I've
He
ever
went
seen.
on to do bigger things.
Yes, I think you and I have talked about it off air one time, that particular director. So it's funny that you were talking about Gaelic. I was talking with Lady Glitch about having a Gaelic name.
Mm-hmm. Which I find absolutely fascinating.
And you can't. Mine is not complicated. Like I've seen some spelling of Gaelic names that have like an A, E, an O, and you're supposed to pronounce it like.
Yeah.
Like the pronunciation of some Gaelic names are weird. I didn't think mine's that weird. Nope. Have to just change my name tag at work to Cal because I will get everything
don't get it.
else. Yeah, no. Didn't think it was complicated, but it can be. I meant a Kaylee that was spelled C-A-E-L like EUGH, or
Ugh.
something like that.
That's
Like it's
just
just way out
nasty.
there.
Oh yeah. I've
I
seen
think there was a
something along
D
those
in
lines.
it.
Yeah.
I think there was a D in it, actually. And I was
Oh,
like, Caliday? And they were like,
like
Kaylee.
Ceilidh.
That was it. They Celidae. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, it's
Celidae?
pronounced
And they're
Kaylee,
like,
and it's the Gaelic
that was
name
it.
for
Thank you.
Irish Scottish dance party.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like, what was it? Celidh?
Ceilidh.
DGH. Yeah,
And then
it
there
was
are
it
some
was
other
spelled
variations
something like
on
that. It was a
Yeah.
variation of that, and I was like, what? So it's not that bad. So existentialism and werewolves aside,
Yes,
which
and now
I
we're
would
back
like
into
to talk about those things, by the way. But to get back into
We can
the
do a show about
episode,
wolf walkers sometime.
there we go. Everything goes black. That's where we cut off.
Yep, and now we got the post-court / the Vin window sequence.
And that's right. It's just Enzobyte. And hexadecimal appears behind him and says, "So, you've killed everyone."
Think about the verbiage used. She actually says the word kill. You don't often hear that in the reboot series.
You don't
So you know
often hear
it's
that
serious.
word in children's cartoons, period.
That too. But they actually use it twice.
She
in
didn't
this
say
episode.
deleted. Yeah.
And then she's like,
And
"Good."
he's confronted with a gigantic floating mask of hexadecimal.
She's really channeling like Emperor Palpatine vibes. He's like, good. Feel the hatred.
Haven't you figured it out yet?
I have. And then it goes multi-mask, and we all have, and it just echoes.
Yeah, that's creepy. All the masks with different glowing colored eyes, red, green, blue, RGB, all fly at him with all their different expressions, and they just repeat, "We all have," and I'm like, this is getting really weird.
Yeah,
weirder and weirder.
And speaking of the weirdness, I started drawing parallels between this sequence and Identity Crisis Part 2, because both Dot and Enzo go through their own personal identity crises with similar different elements, such as they have no idea what the fuck is happening. They both deny the existence of each other, because in that episode, Dot walks into the diner and Enzo says, "No, my sister's not here. She got obliterated in a GameCube." So we got that. And then Dot's denying Enzo's existence in this episode. They're both trying to find Bob. There's both similar musical themes happening with the instrumentation between both episodes. And then after seeing what could potentially happen to themselves in these episodes, they both take control of the situation, which we'll find out in a few minutes after the sequence is over.
You're hired.
Thank you.
New co-host, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey!
What you are experiencing is a temporary distortion of reality.
Tell me, who is number one? I am number one.
And it's a vid window mirroring Megabyte.
Real
Enzo
Megabyte.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Says that I am the driving force in your life. I am hatred. I drive you on and consume you.
I love the fact that he punctuates "I am hatred." Like, this is what I am in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all of this is just parts of Enzo, as we've talked about.
Yep.
And so that manifests as Megabyte.
Mm-hmm. And then he gets really pissed off and smashes the window.
Which was kind of the crux of the climax of The Prisoner as well. Like, turns out number 6 was actually number 1, and it was all, like, basically, like, the negative parts of him, essentially.
And it's interesting because he's like, oh, I hate you. So Enzo hates himself to some extent. And I think part of this, like, vision quest, this dreamscape, is Enzo learning to not hate himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's at Megabyte because he hates Megabyte, so part of him hates himself.
And indeed, Megabyte morphs into Matrix.
Adult Matrix.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this dream escape will help him, but maybe it'll help him not completely blame himself for everything.
Mhm.
past
It's all
this
his
point.
past influences staying in his subconscious, and he's tapping into all of it.
So I hope, even though this was a semi-coma dream, as we'll find out in a bit, I hope this was healing in some way for him,
Mm-hmm.
because everything was out of his control, and he did more than he
Mm-hmm.
should have been allowed to even do.
Yeah,
in
and
reality.
Matrix not having control has been a recurring theme for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we get to adult Matrix in the vid window, and he's like, I am
Talking to
number one.
himself.
I care for no one. Which
That's-
is his internal
And he
self.
pleads with himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, that's not true, in reply to, I only care about number one, myself.
It's like, but I love Andrea. But he also looks down at the same time, which nonverbal body language, he's like, I'm also kind of ashamed to admit that. It's like, do I really love Andrea? Am I just saying that to save face? Or
I don't think he was looking down as if to lie. I think he was looking for answers, and he didn't really have anything else beside that. Or maybe you're right. Maybe he felt like he didn't have much, or that he was lying to himself. Curious. Because the reflection of him says, you don't love anyone else but yourself.
Yep, just looking out for number one.
And
then
he
gets pissed
reacts
off
how
and
he
shoots himself
shouldn't
in the mouth.
react. He shoots the vid window of himself.
And he thinks that's going to end the game, and it doesn't.
Which I feel like that's him still not really wanting to face reality.
Yeah, that's still delusional.
Yeah,
He'd be trapped in a coma for like 2 seasons if that was the case. Like TV show.
So he'd be like Archer then.
Yeah. Wasn't there a kids TV show, a live action show that was in a fantasy realm, and all the characters were kids, but it was actually about a kid that like fell out of a tree and like went into a coma?
Maybe?
There was, yeah.
TV show about kid in coma.
Also, the Archer joke.
The Odyssey.
The Archer joke was because Archer spent like 3 seasons in a coma.
Oh,
and
jeez.
Yeah, like 3 seasons of that show were him in a coma, like living out, and like just living out like whatever like bullshit was going on in his head.
Do either of you remember The Odyssey?
The book or the show or the movie?
The TV show.
No. They made a show?
There's a trip. 1992 to 1994.
Oh, I was busy
This
watching
sounds really familiar.
There are like Nazis that are adults. Well, not literal Nazis, but they're wearing gray and they're in German Nazi outfits, and they're like the regime, and they're trying to find him, and it's like a fantasy sci-fi where like his friends are. It's weird. He like comes out of the coma momentarily, and all of it is so real and like vivid, like he wants to go back, and then you're like, holy shit, this is like weird and deep. But then you find out it's like another reality that's not just in his coma, because for a while he's like, I'm like, is he gonna kill himself or put himself in a coma again? What is this show? It's way too deep for a kid show. It's called The Odyssey. It's wild.
Wow.
Bong.
So what's going on here is child Enzo, the original,
The
is
OG,
mocking,
if you will.
OG Enzo is kind of mocking. Oh, he's got tears in his eyes.
Yeah, I actually have that down. 2014, the timestamp. You can look in his eyes. I don't know if it's a reflection or he's upset, but he's just
tears
disgusted
cooling.
Yeah, because he looks disgusted at his adult self as to what he is going to become later on in life. It's like, what the fuck?
I think that's just light reflecting on his eyes, because I don't see tears.
No, it's water pooling. I can see it. They don't like fall down his face, but
But they're there.
Yeah, and he's like, do you think this is a game? Do you?
Do you think this is a game?
But to Christopher's credit, though, like, I think it might be weird lighting because when he narrows his eyes, it goes
Yeah.
away.
That's
Tears
Yeah, 'cause
don't
there is a
suck
spotlight in
themselves
that
back
scene.
up into your eyes.
I'm pretty sure it's just lighting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm looking at it again. But
Almost thought they were tears.
a nice little hypothesis.
But the back and forth is he's like, well, how? You're me.
But you hate me. You must look at what you've become. And his voice is so disgusted. It's like, this is just purely amazing writing done by Dan DiDio.
You're wrong. I had to become bigger, tougher.
Well,
I had to be ready for Megabyte.
He's
to
a
survive
great
the
writer
games.
unto his own right. He's had a pretty prolific career in comic books. Like he was, he was editor-in-chief of DC Comics for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised he wrote.
Enzo.
I said at the beginning of this season, I'm like, wow, they actually hired real writers for this season.
Right. I remember listening to Mend and Defend, and you made that mention.
Yeah.
Enzo says to Matrix, so you like the games more than Mainframe?
More than your family.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Why
no.
would he?
Yeah.
Why would he question that? Is it because I don't think that Matrix really believes it, but I think he's questioning himself because the most competent Matrix has ever been has been this big tough guy defeating games easily.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like when people do mention family to you in that kind of an aggressive sense, people get very, very defensive. They get very rooted back into, I guess, their beginnings, and they want to defend that. And we can kind of see that here, and he's trying to deflect it. He's like, no, I didn't. I was trapped in the games.
Or maybe he's mentioning
I don't think he's
family in
deflecting.
that Fast and the Furious kind of way, where everything is about family, man.
And you look over, and as you pull up to like a stop sign, and a buddy's like beside you, and you just nod as his ghostly specter goes off in another direction from you.
Drives off into the sunset.
Oh my god. I need to get you guys to Universal and have you ride the Fast and the Furious ride. Because that's all there is.
Here's a fun fact. I haven't seen a single Fast and the Furious movie since Too Fast, Too Furious in theaters back in like 2003.
Well, there you go.
Is that the one I was referencing?
No, I think you were referencing.
No, I'm like Furious 7 or something.
Yeah, the one that was the one that was shooting while Paul Walker died.
I gotta say, there's some teary moments in that.
I listen to a shit ton of movie podcasts, so like even if I haven't seen a really popular movie, I've basically heard it discussed to death.
You feel it.
So
yeah.
I'm familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think this is like him getting defensive. I think this is him directly referencing all of the times where he has felt like he wants to give up finding Mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, well, why do you want to give up? Do you hate your family? And he's like, well, no, what the heck? I had no choice. I was trapped in the games. So his biggest enemy is himself.
Because if we go back to what Fong said back in season 1, it's like the future is not determined by a throw of the dice. It is determined by the conscious decisions of you. You are in control of your future. You got to make it happen. No one else is going to do it for you. So,
I think he's doing fine.
Yeah.
I like Matrix. And Enzo points to Matrix and he says, no, you don't. You killed my family.
My family. You've forgotten your family.
Yeah. That's rough. Because he's like, you let yourself become a prisoner of the games. And he looks him up and down and he's like, what would Bob think of you now? And I'm like,
sick burn, bro.
Fuck
sick
off.
Pulling out all the stops in this dialogue.
Like, in my opinion, Matrix is so much more capable than Bob ever was. Like, if he had shown, if there was a time machine and he went back to old Mainframe at the time of when he was a kid, Bob escapes responsibility, right? Bob is let's face it, he's kind of dumb, right? Bob shows mercy when he shouldn't. That's a good and bad thing. We've talked about that on the show.
And we'll continue to
But,
see
like,
that as the rest of the season goes.
But Matrix, he's more capable.
He's just
I'm
doubting
glad
himself.
Christopher agrees.
Go ahead.
Yep.
And then Enzo does some weird shit, and he holds up a golf ball, and he says, "Bob, there can be only one," as he holds the golf ball up to his eye.
Here we are, born to be kings.
We're the princes of the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, those
We can't go single.
those Highlander references we make all the time are finally starting to pay off, you know?
So the bee seeing you and the golf ball, the bee seeing you thing from The Prisoner, the golf ball turns gigantic and like liquid and like
kinda smothers him.
slams into Matrix, suffocating him. It's just symbolism for he got hit in the head with a golf ball, folks.
Yep.
In a game. Because he wakes up. Presumably, this is the real reality now.
Yeah, he's like gasping for air.
Yeah. Andrea's laughing. Oh, the mighty Matrix knocked for a loop by an errant golf ball.
And he touches his
she's in
forehead.
Yeah, he's got a little. I think there's a little red there, a little goose egg or something there.
Apparently
he's not rebooted.
I was about to
either.
say, apparently he got knocked out before he had a chance to even reboot. Because Andrea has rebooted.
She's in like a summer like golf
outfit.
I like this hat she's wearing.
Yeah, sun hat. I like that the
got a thing for hats.
The sprites. I'm not sure if maybe one of them is the user. The other golfers. The other golfers are Shark wearing a t-shirt and black hat, a sombrero, just a sombrero, and Hobbs, a little like plush, like adorable tiger.
Yeah.
Wearing like a black cap.
As I mentioned earlier, that tiger is fucking adorable and probably the cutest thing in this show that I've seen thus far. This is actually a reference to something.
Oh.
And
it's 3 famous golfers.
Yes.
Well, one's Tiger Woods, I assume.
So
I don't know enough about
a reference to famous professional golfers Greg the Shark Norman, Lee the Merry Mex Trevino,
okay,
and Tiger Woods.
I was going to say, but I waited. Like the hat is even kind of like the hats that Tiger Woods wears.
Yeah.
I think the hat, the sombrero, is a reference to Lee the Merry Mex Trevino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume as well. I just didn't know who it was referencing because I know nothing about golf. But Tiger Woods famously got so famous and so popular at the height that it permeated into the common pop culture.
Oh yeah.
It's like Wayne Gretzky. You can know nothing about hockey, and if somebody says that name, they're not gonna go, who? Was he a famous baseball player? No. Michael Jordan, right? Iconic for the sport.
Yep.
Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah. The Rock. Stone Cold. The Undertaker. I feel like more people know wrestling icons than they'd be willing to admit.
That's because there was a time in modern society where like pretty much everyone watched wrestling. That time has passed, but there was a time. Around the time this episode aired.
Where the road goes. So Enzo says something that's interesting. He's like, no more waiting. We've been living like viruses, infecting games and systems. This has to end. We're taking control. Search for mainframe and Bob begins now. And I'm like, what have you guys been doing?
Yeah, and like, how are you going to do that exactly? You're kind of limited to like
wherever the user takes you.
You're kind of limited to whether
gumption, though.
to whether like the user decides to lend the floppy disk of this like golf game to his buddy over in the next cubicle. Like
exactly. But I'm gonna echo Cal and be like, he's rededicating his original purpose. So yay, confidence.
Yeah,
and
I
drive
like that.
and ambition.
Good.
Good for
I
him.
like the gumption.
you
And
just
I like
gotta
he's like,
believe.
I don't know how he's going to do that stuff. I thought they have been, but it's his morale and the psyche that have been pumped up. And I like that he's like, now who hit that golf ball?
He
takes out his gun.
He's gonna keep doing the exact same thing he's been doing for the last couple episodes, but now he's gonna feel better about doing it.
That's right. And he's like, gun, command line, targeting. And he points his gun at the adorable, like, sprite
tiger
playing golf. And they
Don't
run.
shoot that tiger, please. No. Please, Enzo.
Be seeing you, and then it's presumed he just shoots them. Can you imagine playing that game? And then Can you imagine playing that game and you're playing the cute little tiger, of course, right? And your opponents are a sombrero, a shark, and a really detailed, like nautical themed, like tall girl that you've never seen in the game before. And then all of a sudden, like, an 80s action hero stands up and, like, points a gun at you and just shoots you all dead, and you get, like, a game over screen, even though it's a golf game.
I think we've talked about that before, but yeah.
Oh, endlessly. But I always think it's, like, funny whenever they do something outside the context of the game, and the user's like, what the fuck? What was that?
Dude, I'm playing MLB The Show, and, like, someone just fired a fucking rocket launcher at me. What the hell?
And he had blue skin. And silver hair.
And he was flying around on, like, this weird, like, disjointed hoverboard type thing. The hell kind of baseball game is this?
Have we ever seen a zip board in a game?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Huh, I never thought about that before. Do they disappear until the game's over?
Possibly.
Yeah, because they often fly into the game with the zip board,
and then
but then the zip board's not there.
Interesting.
Huh. So
but
you can't bring gear that can help you into it.
Yes, you can, because in Bad Bob brings his car in.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
And Enzo brings his little hovercraft doodad in there.
Yep. And Fong is in there.
Yeah.
With something.
With something.
With the copter.
Yeah.
Huh. Maybe zip boards are different.
Maybe they have to be like a certain
size?
A certain size, like a certain megabytes worth of data to be able to enter into a GameCube and like not be obliterated, because
at least 1 megabytes worth of data.
Yeah.
Viruses can't enter games without being messed up.
Right.
So when Matrix is like, I'm tired of living like...
We've seen Megabyte be in a game before just fine.
Oh, wait, he was just fine. Wait.
In Games Collide. The only reason he was so fucked up in Bad Bob was because he fell into the core energy. And he was like in the process of being deleted, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it kind of saved his life, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he was
but
fine.
You're right. He was just normal and when Games Collide.
Yeah, he was running
just
around,
himself.
getting chased by a, like, tank T-Rex.
Yeah, but they just can't reboot, so...
He was, like, pawing at the missiles flying at him. Yeah, he just can't reboot. All right, so, with that out of the way, do we have any closing statements before we jump into our ratings, or should we get to it?
I think not. No.
I covered all my notes, all 7 pages of it, so
I'm glad. I'm glad. We've had guests on with many pages before, and we did not touch on anything they had written down. All right. So here on Alphanumeric, we have 3-tier rating system. The bottom being, sorry, we have 4. This is not too much energon. This is Alphanumeric. Sorry, I almost went full Sniddler where we only have 2.
Yeah, so Dinobot in his robot farm.
in his robot farm. I can't remember which one of us said farm. Was
I
it
did.
me?
It was definitely
You?
me.
Yeah. Now I want to draw that. Dinobot live like the Chronicles of Dino. Anyways, that's a different podcast. We have starting from the bottom. That was bad. Very bad. I don't think so. That was easy enough. And alphanumeric.
Sniddler's favorite rating.
Let's start with
our guest.
Yes, let us start with Lady Glitch.
Okay.
What is your rating for this episode?
Okay, I am going to flat out give this an alphanumeric episode. I believe it's one of the best written season 3 episodes that has been produced, and probably out of the entire reboot series, because we just dive into Matrix's psyche as deep as it is. And then we also get to touch on the other characters as well and what their thought processes are. So I think the level of depth that is explored in this episode is just fantastic. And then it just kind of sets us up really nicely for the rest of season 3, because we are at the halfway point. So.
Oh shit.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Alphanumeric.
Wait, no,
Okay.
we're not. We're not yet, because season 3 has 16 episodes. This is only episode 7.
What a weird number.
Next week's the halfway point.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I actually had
We're
to think
almost
about
at
that for a
halfway point.
second. I'm like, wait, are we? Oh.
I can
No, wait.
math. It's
Christopher Siege. What is your rating of number 7?
I'm going to go against the room here a little bit, and I think I'm going to give it a I don't think so.
okay.
I'm joking. No, but I'm not giving it an alphanumeric. I'm going to give it a that was easy enough. I like we got to explore like what was going on in Matrix's head. Like I think there was a lot of development with that character, a lot of self-discovery. I think the episode was a little too derivative, though. Like in previous episodes, like they've kind of taken a mishmash of different influences and like kind of mushed them together as like.
Except the last one.
Well, the last one was like Star Trek meets.
Unbearable.
That's the throwaway episode.
Last week was Star Trek meets DC Universe Online.
Yeah.
But no, like for the most part in previous episodes, like they've taken like a whole wide range of, they've drawn from a whole wide range of influences and kind of made their own thing out of it. Whereas this is basically just the prisoner.
Especially the end.
Especially the end.
There were.
The setup for the episode is basically the same as well, though, because, like, in The Prisoner, dude gets knocked out, he wakes up in, like, basically, like, a fake, like, recreated version of his town. Yeah. So, I think it's just a little too derivative. I think if they had kind of brought in, if they had homaged like more things and not just like essentially
loosely followed it
and not just essentially done a straight up adaptation of The Prisoner, then I would be rating it higher. I still really enjoyed the episode though, and like I thought it was a real like surreal kind of mindfuck of an episode, which was not something this morning I was expecting to see when I put on this week's episode of Reboot. So it's a high. That was easy enough.
Okay.
I think the NeoCal rating of number 7 is that was easy enough. The episode, I've explained to myself before in the past, it can have some of the best moments in it, that are memorable and that are important. But if it's not iconic or really memorable or lends a lot to the show, it can detract from it. I think a lot of airtime was wasted on playing the what's that famous movie where like the mom and daughter switch bodies?
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday.
So a lot of the humor was on that gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And symbolically, if it's done like right, I really like it. Like letting yourself abuse power is something we didn't talk about on the show, but that whole like, well, if you can abuse power, to what extent would you chase it or pursue it, or would you give up some of that power because it's the right thing to do? And I liked exploring that through Megabyte and Hexadecimal as their rebooted forms.
Mm-hmm.
But I pointed out while we were watching it that there was a lot of like, why is the viewer following fake Dot and fake Bob and fake Fawn so much? Like, I don't care. We're never gonna see them again. 2, it's not real. And 3, it's not even Enzo's memories of what they would act like. They're like versions of him, but not clear. Not the symbology isn't even clear until the very end. Like Bob doesn't act like Enzo or Bob up until the very end when he becomes like a metaphor for his self-loathing and his fear and stuff. But up to that point, up to the last little bit, he's just like a weird skeptical like game sprite. So I feel a lot is lost up until we get to that last point. And I wanted more Andrea and Enzo exploring power, and which they did, but I didn't understand a lot of it. And it's one of those ones where while you're watching it, you're like, oh, cool. But a year after, you just remember it as like the Vision Quest episode. And like the little like, here comes the judge, and the snappy like ending. But everything going up to that is not quite what I'd like it to have an alphanumeric rating.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't remember this episode at all. So
yeah, I just remembered golf and like Vision Quest and the courtroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So close, but no cigar. Could have been. And I think that's our wrap up.
Cool.
Anybody listening, if you disagree and you have your own rating, feel free to write it out in YouTube comments. Send us an email if you want. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. I'm gonna do a shout out to a few places where you can find us, if that's all right with all of you.
Go nuts.
Christopher Siege is Lasercomb on Twitter, spelled the same way. And Lady Glitch is at Lady Glitch, and I think it's
619.
619, so close. Lady Glitch 619. And if you find her, and there's a whole bunch of reboot stuff right on the bio, that's definitely her. And you could find me at neo_cal with a K. I'm mostly just like what they say and do. Sometimes upload pictures of the sunset or ducks or mountains or whatever I get around to.
Yay, nature.
We do have a website if you want to find us at alphanumericpodcast.ca, www.alphanumericpodcast.ca. So you can listen to us on the browser through that if you want to. You can find us almost everywhere, right, Christopher? Spotify, Apple Music, What am I missing here?
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and a whole bunch of
Amazon
providers
Music.
I've never even heard of.
It's out there.
Who the fuck listens to Deezer? I don't know, but apparently
I
a
don't
bunch of
even
our
know what that
listeners
is.
do.
What is that?
I don't know, but people listen to our shows on Deezer. So shout out to you guys who listen to us on Deezer. You can also find me on Instagram at Christopher Siege, Siege.
And you can find me on Instagram as well under LadyGlitch619.
619.
Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna guess that's your area code. Yes.
It is not. It's my birthday.
Oh.
I was going to say, it's
right.
clearly our birthday
Wait,
because
right,
we just
right.
talked.
I feel really dumb for saying that, so I'm gonna edit it out.
That's okay.
You know how many people actually ask me that? But
No, and you know why? Because like we were talking about California earlier, and the wrestler Rey Mysterio is from the 619 area code, which is in California, and one of his signature moves he called the 619.
Gotcha.
So like that's where my brain went.
Okay. No, that's a valid hypothesis. I come from System, Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up. So definitely no 619s over there.
No.
System, Pennsylvania?
Yes. And I have game hopped up and down the East Coast for the last 6 years. So.
All right.
Is that like vampires but with stationary products?
Yes. Yeah. I like that.
Pennsylvania.
I'll tell the story about that. It involves like one of my biggest like brain fart moments in my entire life. Before we sign off, one thing I just wanted to mention was a couple of weeks ago we were talking about like maybe casting the a live action reboot movie. I don't know if you remember that, Cal.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we were talking about like who we think should play like characters in a live action reboot movie.
Oh yeah.
So YouTube user Chris G says wants to throw his hat into the recommendations. He says Liam Hemsworth as Matrix, Alicia Debnam Carey as Andrea, and Danny DeVito as Hardboot. Now, I don't know who Alicia Debnam Carey.
Got me.
I'm Googling her now. She's an Australian actress. Apparently she is on Fear the Walking Dead. Oh, right, she's the daughter on Fear the Walking Dead. All right. Which I watched the first season of.
Okay. It's the facial structure. She's got that kind of like... I can see it. That's good. I like that.
Our old buddy Cone Killer Confusor chimes in saying Channing Tatum as Matrix. I think he's a little old for the role at this point. I would also say that about Danny DeVito as Hardboot.
Yeah, why? I don't. That's the one I don't understand. I know that he was doing it for comical effect, but I was like, no, terrible. Liam Hemsworth as Matrix.
I can get behind that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We should get around to making our own.
Making our own like fan list. Maybe we'll do that next week, because next week is the last episode of this
arc.
Of this arc, which means another Shadow Raiders podcast coming up soon.
Uh-oh. You guys remember Shadow Raiders? Do you? It was called War Planets in the United States.
Based on the War Planet storyline.
There's a masculine blue guy, but his name isn't Bob. It's Rockman, and there's a Fire Boy, and there's an Ice King.
Woo!
Shadow Raiders.
Before we get out of here, too, like I also want to mention, I did start a new podcast recently where me and my co-host, it's a bi-weekly podcast. We talk about films that are based on books, and we contrast and compare the book with the film adaptation. It's called Based On. The first episode that's out is about the very controversial 90s book and film Fight Club. So go and check that out. You can find it on if you're watching the video version, you can find it on this very YouTube channel. And if you want to hear the audio version, Apple hasn't approved the podcast yet. They seem to be kind of dragging their feet, but it's available everywhere else. So just look for Based On or look for Lasercomb.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right.
Nice.
So I think that about does it for this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I am talked out. I don't know what else to say.
Well, what I will say is I have been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I've been your guest host. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Cal.
Sorry. I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And I've been your guest host, Lady Glitch.
It was great having you on.
Yeah, it was
great.
great.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to finally have a professional fan on the show.
A true expert.
Aw. Thank you. It's been finally nice to have a conversation with you guys that's not in text form on a social media platform.
Right?
Yes.
And now the world gets to enjoy it as well. Yes.
Woo!
And on that note,
until next week,
be seeing you.
Be seeing ya.
Who is number one?
Well, it's Zicko, crack them dry bones, it's Zicko, crack them dry bones, it's Zicko, crack them dry bones. Now hear the word of the Lord. It's Zicko, connect them dry bones, it's Zicko, connect them dry bones, it's Zicko, connect them dry bones. Now hear the word of the Lord. On your toe bone connected to your foot bone connected to your heel bone connected to your ankle bone connected to your leg bone connected to your knee bone connected to your thigh bone connected to your hip bone connected to your backbone connected to your shoulder bone connected to your neck bone connected to your